Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Good Wednesday morning to you. It's 6:07 now as we plow through the news cycle with abandon. Coming up at 6:35, Cal Thomas will join us. 7:05, Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch. And then at 8:05, Steve Malloy will talk about the EPA's move to declassify carbon dioxide as a pollutant because, well, it's not. You breathe it out every day. Are you polluting when you exhale, Julie Gunlock?
Apparently so.
Well, I mean, you watch MSNBC sometimes. Some of those people are polluting when they exhale, but that's... we will talk about that. There's a lot to get to here, though, and we continue where we left off there. The New York Times, of course, caught in a giant lie about the conditions in the Gaza territories. And it's not to say the conditions are great. It's a war. There's a war going on. But they absolutely lied, and they over-exaggerated, and they tried to push a narrative, because that's what the New York Times does. And over in Europe, the narrative is taking hold. As we saw last week, the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, trying to deflect attention from the First Lady, decided to announce that they were recognizing a Palestinian state, which, you've got to think that this move is because he's feeling pressure at home. They've opened up their borders in Western Europe. The demographics of their countries have changed radically, and the fiercest, borderline violent protests over the Israel-Hamas war have been in Paris and in London. We'll get to England in a minute. And so, Macron does this partly, I think, because he's terrified of the war on his own streets, because of those who are aligned with the Palestinians that they have imported into their country.
Yeah.
And the United Kingdom apparently is following suit. And I just want to be clear here. He said, we're going to recognize the Palestinian state because, as he put it, it's urgent to stop the war in Gaza. And he's doing this as a move for peace. Again, let's just be clear. The October 7th terror attacks is what started this war. And if at the end of the day, there is an officially recognized nation state called Palestine in the place where Gaza and the West Bank currently are, then Hamas would have been successful. Who is not quite understanding that? Yeah. It's outrageous. It's outrageous that they are going to... And let me just tell you the way terrorists think. Despite all the destruction and all the war and all the death and all of the mayhem over the last 2 years brought on by that war where Israel is trying to destroy their enemy on their border, if at the end of the day Hamas can step away from it and say, oh, we got our state? Oh, well, it was all worth it. Good job. Let's plan the next attack now. Because they're not... What do you think from the river to the sea means, you morons?
Yeah, this is a payoff. He's terrified. Macron and Starmer are terrified about the Islamist takeover of their countries. France and England, frankly, are captured. They have allowed way too many radical Islamist immigrants into their country. It's been taken over, and now this is a payoff. They want to stay in power, so this is a payoff to them. I love Macron's statement. The urgent need is for the war in Gaza to end and for the civilian population to be rescued, right? Does he actually think no requirements, by the way, for this recognition that Hamas leave, that Hamas give up power? Nothing.
Release the hostages?
No, release nothing. Exactly, Larry. Nothing. It's disgusting. He's a coward, and this is self-serving. Absolutely.
So across the channel, here's Prime Minister Keir Starmer yesterday making an announcement on behalf of the British people. And I'm not so sure the actual British people agree with this. But again, all those that have been imported into England over the last decade, they're thrilled with it.
7th of October 2023, Hamas perpetrated the worst massacre in Israel's history. Every day since then, the horror has continued. The hostages are still being held today. The Palestinian people have endured terrible suffering. Now, in Gaza because of a catastrophic failure of aid. We see starving babies, children too weak to stand, images that will stay with us for a lifetime. The suffering must end. Yesterday I discussed this with President Trump, and we're mounting a major effort to get humanitarian supplies back in by air, and UK aid has been airdropped into Gaza today, and crucially, by land. We need to see at least 500 trucks entering Gaza every day. But ultimately, the only way to bring this humanitarian crisis to an end is through a long-term settlement. So we are supporting the US, Egyptian and Qatari efforts to secure a vital ceasefire. That ceasefire must be sustainable, and it must lead to a wider peace plan, which we're developing with our international partners. This plan will deliver security and proper governance in Gaza and pave the way for negotiations on a two-state solution. Our goal remains a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable and sovereign Palestinian state.
Do you hear the shallow breathing there? Like he's like terrified. It sounds like a
Nervous.
hostage video himself. That he's
It
like,
does. It does.
got Hamas with a gun pointed at their hand while they're wearing their baklavas. This is, again, outrageous. He framed the whole thing in the October 7th massacre. That was the preamble, but then it ends with a two-state solution. They don't want the people who perpetrated October 7th are not looking for a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution. They don't recognize Israel. Meanwhile, Qatar, he mentioned the Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt declaration. That's true. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt just signed a declaration calling for a ceasefire and eventually a conversation about a two-state solution. But it begins with them demanding that Hamas disarm and leave Gaza. He left that part out.
Right.
I mean, if anything, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Qatar have more moral clarity than the United Kingdom on this issue. The President of the United States, by the way, is not on board with the plan that Keir Starmer has put forth. Obviously, he said that. We played the audio for you where he said that would be rewarding Hamas. That's never going to happen, nor should it. It's frustrating to see this, to say the very least.
It is frustrating, but also let's get also to the root of it. What is the Palestinian state? No, there's no such thing. These are Jordanians and Egyptians and Lebanese. These are people who came from other city-states that the United States does recognize, that England does recognize, that France does recognize. This is all this push for a Palestinian state is not just for another state to live alongside Israel. This is to replace Israel. That is.
Julie, and just hold your thought. We got more of it. It's all framed within the context of, people are starving. No, we see the video of warehouses full of aid that has already been paid for and sent. Why aren't they getting to the people? Because of Hamas. They're in charge. All right, more on this, Netanyahu's response. The former Obama staffers who run the Pod Save America, they're all in for the Hamas lobby as well. They want to reward Hamas for October 7th. It's despicable, but that's where the Democrats are today. They're just as terrified of their base as Keir Starmer is of the mobs on the streets of London. It's 6:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
And there is no starvation in Gaza. We enable humanitarian aid throughout the duration of the war to enter Gaza. Otherwise, there would be no Gazans. And what has interdicted the supply of humanitarian aid is one force, Hamas.
That's right. That's moral clarity. Think this through for a minute. They're starving in Gaza. Really? Then it's been 2 years now since the retaliation to the October 7th attack. Almost 2 years, a year and a half. If they're starving in Gaza, then where are all the dead bodies? Where are all the mass graves? Where are the? I mean, it's a lie. It's just a lie. Yeah. Are conditions bad on the ground in the Gaza territories? Of course they are. It's a war. That's what happens. As I mentioned, the Obama bros who started the Pod Save America, they are influential. And yesterday on their episode, they went all in. Why people like that? I'll let you hear it in a second. But why people like this here in America, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Democrats who lead the way for that party, why they don't recognize that by you'll hear him in this say, oh, we can't go back to the status quo before October 7th. Okay, so if you're saying that what led to October 7th can't continue, you're saying that October 7th was justified.
Right.
Why they don't have just the basic moral compass to figure out that equation, I'll never understand. Well, but that's where we are. Here's Tommy Viator. Used to work in the Obama administration, podcaster now. Listen.
I think Democratic candidates should take money from AIPAC or vote to fund military support for Israel anymore. I really don't. In this government, absolutely not. And that especially includes, I think, the next Democratic nominee for president.
Things I want to see Democrats at least calling for is cutting off military assistance to Israel. Yep. It's a rich country, by the way. They don't need our $3 billion a year. And hands up, right? Barack Obama signed a 10-year MOU for $3.3 billion a year. So we're part of the problem here. Mm-hmm. Let's correct it. I would like to see talk about sanctioning Israeli government officials who use genocidal rhetoric or who talk about ethnic cleansing openly. We should support a ceasefire resolution at the UN. We should demand that international press be allowed into the Gaza Strip to report on what's happening without an IDF minder. It's insane. The press still can't go into Gaza and cover what's happening. And I also think there has to be a total mindset change in the Democratic Party. When the war ends, we are not going back to the pre-October 7th status quo because it's not where the party is. It's not where the world is. We're not going to shovel billions a year in military aid. We're not going to veto every effort to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN. We should not take money from AIPAC. And I will hold out hope for better political leadership in the U.S. and in Israel. But we have to also recognize that the Biden era hug Bibi Netanyahu strategy has to be thrown in the trash can.
Well, listen, at least they're being honest about where they stand. But that language right there, we cannot go back to a pre-October 7th status quo, is tantamount to saying October 7th was justified and we need to reward the perpetrators of the October 7th. And you just heard all of that admonishment. We can't do this, we can't. It was all about support for Israel. Not one word of condemnation for Hamas and for the terrorists who slaughter innocence at a moment's notice.
Everybody should listen to Pod Save America to be reminded of why we are where we are.
Yeah.
The Obama administration and staffers like these guys created the mess that we are trying to dig ourselves out of right now. They have blood on their hands. They are absolutely despicable. And it's good to listen to that. You imagine that's what it was like at that Obama White House. That's the mindset. It is so destructive. And again, the situation in the Middle East right now, largely it was because of years of Clinton and Obama administration folly. That is why we are where we are.
Yep, equivocation for the terrorists. And let's not forget, by the way, these guys are former Obama guys. They're talking about, Obama was part of the problem. Obama financed this attack.
That's right.
Obama gave Iran pallets of euros in the millions, and all that money went to Hamas and Hezbollah and for Iran's own nuclear program. Stop acting like they're, we can criticize Obama for being bad. We got to fix. No, Obama actually empowered these attacks to happen because of his equivocation of the people on the ground there. There's why this is important. We make fun of podcasts a lot. Here's three guys who used to work in the Obama administration who now started a podcast, but they are influential. And they actually speak for pretty much the mainstream of the Democrat Party. These guys are establishment Democrats now. And that is incredibly influential, what you just heard. If the Pod Save America people are making this statement now, it means this is where the center of gravity is in the Democrat Party. And it's tragic, actually. I want to defeat Democrats. I don't agree with their policies pretty much in any way whatsoever. But there used to be a time where support for Israel and moral clarity about who the terrorists are and who the bad guys are was something that both parties agreed on. And I think that was a good thing about our country. It looks like those days are behind us. But you know what? It makes everybody's vote a little bit easier. It's 6:23.
Coming up, it's cow time. Keep it here. It's 6:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
6:37 now on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here. Busy Wednesday morning. I just want to button up that conversation we just had, and I want to reiterate what you just heard from representatives of the mainstream Democrat thought, the party thought, these Pod Save America dudes, these Obama guys, saying mindset change, can't go back to the status quo. Democrats can't go back to pre-October 7th. That was the goal of October 7th. This is why Hamas murdered over 1,000 innocent people and still hold the hostages. The goal was to deliver exactly what these morons, these moral idiots on Pod Save America just did, compelling Democrats to abandon the state of Israel, take sides, and side with the terrorists. That mission accomplished for Hamas. Disgusting. Tom Fitton joins us at 7:05. 8:05 brings us Steve Malloy. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie. I'm disgusted.
I know, me too. Me too.
Maybe Cal Thomas will cleanse me of this. Cal joins us. Although I see your column now is about the situation in Gaza as well. Your column tomorrow. I have not read it yet. But I have a sense, knowing you, Cal, over the decades, that you have a little bit more moral clarity than these morons who worked in the Obama administration called Pod Save America.
Yeah, well, thanks, and good morning to both of you. The real problem here, and it's been the problem for decades, is that the secular West doesn't understand the religious component of what is happening in the Middle East. These people, Hamas, whatever other name the terrorists go by, believe they have a religious mandate to kill Jews, to wipe out Israel, to come out eventually after the great Satan, that would be us. And the diplomats and the presidents and prime minister don't believe it. Here you have the British prime minister yesterday threatening President Trump that if you don't get more food into Gaza, then we're going to recognize a Palestinian state. I don't know where those borders would be, but any Palestinian state that is carved out of Israel is going to be Gaza times 10. There are going to be more terrorists move in with more missiles and more threats and kidnappings and killings. It doesn't take a prophet to figure this out. It's what they say, it's what they do, it's what they mean, and it's what their goal is.
Well said. And it's all based on a lie, Cal. The aid is there. It's rotting in a warehouse right now because Hamas wants to use the innocent Gazans as human shields to deliver this change of mindset. That's why the aid hasn't gotten to these people.
That's exactly right. The food is being used as a weapon. The pictures are being used as a weapon. Look at these pictures that have gone around the world of a supposedly starving child in the arms of his mother. Now, the New York Post and Newsweek did a little investigating, which journalists used to do, but no longer do, and they found that 1,000 truckloads of aid remained undelivered due to a lack of cooperation from the international community, and these pictures... This one particular picture of this kid who looked emaciated, he had numerous other health issues, of which hunger might have only been one. Same with the second picture that went around the world. That kid had been removed from Gaza and was being treated in Italy. Hamas used his picture anyway to help advance their agenda. So there's so many lies being told about this.
Cal, and I mean, the New York Times is in on it with the picture of that starving child in the arms of his mother. Absolutely heartbreaking, but I mean, sort of a pieta sort of look to it. And then they managed to edit the photo so that her normal-sized child, well-fed, looks even a little bit chubby-cheeked. Standing right next to her is edited out. So, I mean, it's not a matter of them not being told about this child's other condition. It's on purpose. I mean, they were part of it. Isn't that right? The New York Times was literally part of it in editing that photo to remove her other child who was well-fed.
Yeah, the New York Times has been terrible on this, especially Thomas Friedman, the Jewish columnist, who has been in bed with a terrorist for years. This kind of stuff has been going on for decades, whether it's Lebanon or the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine or whatever. These people don't hide their objectives. They preach it in their sermons. They publish it in their media. They teach it to school children in their textbooks. You may remember the controversy a few years ago involving Saudi Arabia, which it was funding all these textbooks in Palestinian schools. The math was 1 grenade plus 1 grenade equals 2 grenades. That's how they taught math. And the Jews were responsible for AIDS. The Jews had the hook nose. The Jews were this. The Jews were that. And so when the State Department outed them, they promised to redo the textbooks. Whether they ever did, I don't know. But they certainly haven't redone their religious outlook or their worldview. They want to kill Jews. They want to eliminate Israel. It's as simple as that. And Israel is fighting for its existence and has since 1948.
Hey, Cal, I saw recently James Carville, who still dines out on his election victory from, 40 years ago. He says that the Democrats have a super deep bench right now and they're in great shape. What is he looking at that I'm missing? Because it seems to me that they don't. What, Pete Buttigieg and Wes Moore? That's the deep bench.
Yeah, well, when I think of the Democrats' problem and look at the Wall Street Journal poll and shows that they have their lowest approval rating in decades, 35%, I think of the great Elvis Presley song in another context. They're caught in a trap. They can't get out. They're for open borders. They're for men and women's restrooms and sports. They're for transgenderism. They're for higher taxes. They're for all kinds of other stuff which cost them the last election. Now, if they think it's only messaging, no, it's not. It's the message. But they can't go back on it because they're locked in to all of these issues. So what are they going to do? They're going to come out for pro-life? They're going to come out for traditional marriage? Or they're going to come out for separate locker rooms for boys and girls, men and women? They can't. So let's just keep them running on this, and the conservatives should win the next 2 elections easily.
Cal, you're dropping Elvis Presley lyrics, Suspicious Minds on us, and Julie's referencing the Pietà and Michelangelo. I got nothing. I'm bereft of cultural references.
Well, you need to go back to school. You're caught in a trap.
Truer words never spoken. Every Wednesday at this time, it's like going back to school with you, Cal. Thank you, sir. Have a good week.
Okay, thank you.
It's 6:44.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Well, we mentioned what the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom said yesterday with regard to Palestine. Now we are hearing from the monarch. They've got a king now, Julie.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. King Charles.
Meredith and I, okay, just let me pause on this story because he disgusts me and always has. Sorry.
Yeah, he's gross.
I can't look at big ears without just looking at him in disdain. There was I'm trying to remember now, but Queen Elizabeth II popped up in our timeline the other day, and I can't remember if it was a movie we were watching or a documentary I think it was Queen Elizabeth at a horse race or something, getting all excited because her horse won her like 20 pounds, and
she was
she
very
was
excited
just so
about horse
thrilled
racing.
and excited about it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but it was just so refreshing to see her again.
I know.
Because she really was perfect. Oh, and actually I remember now, we were watching the opening ceremonies of the 2012 Olympics in London when she participated in the whole film with James Bond, where she, parachuted into the stadium and everything. It was hilarious. But she was perfect. She was perfect. And her son is awful.
He's very fussy. Yes.
New report now out of the UK Express. Apparently, King Charles is just appalled. I do love it when the royals are appalled by something. It's appalling.
Appalling.
Yeah, what's appalling? He's appalled by something Donald Trump said. What's appalling? Treating your wife the way you did. Yeah. Yes. One of the most, beloved women on the planet, Princess Diana, and your ongoing extramarital escapades.
Camilla Queen. That's another thing.
Yes, and now you're forcing us all to refer to that woman as a queen.
Yeah.
That's kind of appalling, but we overlook it. We don't dwell on it because we have a special relationship.
Yes.
So the king has invited President Trump to a state dinner in England. They're going to be at the Windsor Castle. Last time Buckingham Palace, this time the Windsor Castle. It's kind of a twofer for the president. I don't think any president's been invited twice. But word is out now that the king was appalled by Donald Trump's recent comments about immigration in the United Kingdom. King Charles is allegedly very concerned. Very concerned. The U.S. President Donald Trump could launch into a massive rant about immigration during his second state visit to the U.K. in September. Well, first of all, he treats the head of state differently than he treats a political person that he's negotiating with in front of the media. Hey, King Charles, don't do an open press conference, and he's not going to say anything. All right?
He should be. Look, I'll say this: he should be nervous because Trump just sat down with Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of England, and he went off on the London mayor Sadiq Khan, who is responsible for so much violence and disorder and craziness in London, right? And so Trump went off on him. And it was one of these things where, he could have just said it and then moved on. No. Trump kept at it. And the thing is, we love that about him. We love that about him. So Prince Charles should be, I will say, Prince Charles should be nervous. Trump will probably go off. He'll probably say something that, Charles is very uncomfortable about. Yeah. So he better get ready.
While on a private visit to Scotland, Mr. Trump warned the Prime Minister that those coming across on dinghies to England illegally are bad people. He said that the illegal immigration into the UK is a horrible invasion and it's killing Europe, and that appalled King Charles. But here's what's interesting. King Charles is appalled by this, and he sat there sitting in his appalled nature, in his appalled state, behind very high walls.
With security.
Literally guarded in a castle, palace.
That's right.
Where he is waited on hand and foot, and he doesn't have to deal with the repercussions of his government's policy with regard to illegal immigration.
Sort of like all these people.
Very similar to Oprah.
Yeah, sort of like Obama. Sort of like all these elites who don't give a crap because they don't have to deal with it. And then you've got this is why we love Trump.
And meanwhile, the actual poor Londoners who are trying to make their way through that city on a regular basis have to be confronted by radical Islamists wielding knives and confronting them over their religious views and stabbing them if they don't adhere to the Quran.
Right. And also, because of this, we have laws in England where if you offend someone, you can go to jail. Okay? Yes. You can stab 3 little girls and make a comment, an offhand comment about how this is outrageous, whatever, and go to jail. So,
well, listen, just to button this story up, we should be concerned because now that King Charles is angry at us, there could be repercussions. I mean, we could feel this. He might tax our tea. He might. Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry, we took care of that problem. We don't have to. It means nothing to us.
Right? Who cares? Calm down.
It's 6:54.